Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Good evening and welcome to the Bellows Falls Village Trustee regular meeting. It is November 23rd, 2021, and the time now is, I think, about 6:08 p.m. We're down here in the lower theater. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we need to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2021. I need a motion for that.
Approval.
Okay, a second? Thank you, Jeff. All right, is there any comment on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, we're good. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and/or pressing matters that will require ratification at a future meeting?
No, nothing for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Is there anyone out there who has anything in the public? It doesn't look like it. We have two reporters. One reporter. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Appears there's nothing. No one wants to come in. All right, so then we move on to when he's ready, the manager's report.
Asphalt plants are closing, so unfortunately we had to finish, or we didn't have to finish, but New Hampshire had to finish their portion of the bridge project. Tomorrow, I think, is the last day that you can get asphalt. So
yeah, pavers coming in, I guess they said.
They do have pavers, so that, timing wise, I would prefer not to be the day before the busiest travel day of the year, but what are we going to do? So much like the rest of this project, it just seems to be, one inconvenience after the next. So I apologize to people in advance if they're stuck in traffic tomorrow. It was not of our choosing, and since the plants are closing, there's not much I could do to tell them to push it off to next week or the following week, or unfortunately that would have meant next spring. So that will get finished hopefully tomorrow. The parking lot behind J&H is, I think, just about complete as well, which has been a little bit more disruptive than anticipated. But I think there is one positive that came out of this project, and we were working with the contractor. The roof drains off that building combined with the sanitary and actually then go into the sewage treatment plant.
Oh, wow.
So it's there's a few places still left in town where it has those because of the age of some of the downtown buildings. So we were able to, when they had the parking lot dug up, we were able to get some pipe, work with the contractor, lay some new pipe. So we now have a separation between the sanitary and the storm. And the good news is I think that current building there has about 6 different roof leaders that come down and then combine and then go into the sanitary and go into our sewage treatment plant. That's one of the primary drivers of overtime, is when we have rain events, all of that additional rainwater floods into the sewage treatment plant and creates alarms, which then requires our men to reply and respond, and that's where we get these mandatory overtimes. So by separating that out, we should see a substantial decrease in those kinds of calls. And then secondarily, we won't be treating stormwater as sanitary, so we should hopefully then see some additional reductions in our operating costs for the actual sewer plant. So it's sort of a good news, bad news kind of scenario in terms of, I know it was just disruptive and it was inconvenient and people on Canal Street were frustrated. We worked with them trying to maintain access to businesses and with parking. But in the long run, it will benefit the village because of that improvement. And I really do want to thank Rob Wheeler, who really sort of shepherded that through at the last minute to get that done, because that's a huge, if we would have to have done that ourselves by digging up their parking lot and then doing all that work, it would have been dramatically more expensive. All it cost us basically now is the cost of pipe. So tremendous improvement for us in the long run, and I do appreciate it. So that's it.
Okay. All right, moving on to the agenda, we have review purchase option and dryer operations for the Bellows Falls wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you. So I handed out this evening, which was not available when we put your packets together, an update from RMI, which is working with us with the operations. A couple of interesting pieces of information. If you remember, we did the plant tour and update back in August, and then since then now we've been running pretty much continuous operation since then. And I think there are some interesting observations if you look at the two charts here on the front page of this handout that I distributed to you this evening. You can see the reduction in what we would have hauled as wet tons versus what was actually pressed through the dryer, and then ultimately you can see from the picture how it gets delivered. Basically, it gets trucked and then eventually stockpiled and spread in fields. So it truly is a real recycling continuous effort there. That is, I think, the heart of this operation is that the long-term concern with the wet sludge will be the availability of disposal. And as long as we're maintaining a Class A, we have more demand than we can ever meet in terms of farms and other people who want this material, that use it and reuse it. So I think at the moment, we're not looking at it as a chargeable product, but I think as we get into the future, that might be an item that we'll take a more aggressive look at, and maybe the board can recapture some additional costs if it turns out to be an actual product that we can charge somebody to come and actually reuse. So I think now, while we're establishing markets and there's not as much Class A material currently available, I think we're sort of at the point where I think not paying for disposal is a nice savings for us in our operation. As we go forward, I think our goal is to see if there is some real opportunity for us to actually sell that product, which would be a nice enhancement to our revenue. The state of Vermont is coming. We have gone through an extraordinarily complex permitting process. As we've already discussed, New Hampshire has already completed our Class A. Vermont is coming now. We've done all of their required remote testing, certifications, updates. The actual folks that are going to be doing the permitting are coming to the plant the first week of December. And then we're hopeful after that they will give us their final authorization for Class A for Vermont. So we'll have permitting in both Vermont and New Hampshire. So I think those are all positive outcomes since we last met on site. I did put a lot of material in your packets that I think is sort of important. We're not asking for a decision tonight. This is more informational. Back when we started this process, you remember we were getting a credit for a portion of what we paid monthly. So you'll see now that the total amount of the credit that would be applied if we decide to purchase by the end of December, which is what the current expectation would be. So our buyout at this point, and we'll come back in our December meeting and make another presentation about some cost benefit as well as some financing options, would be roughly $268,450, which is pretty much, as you saw, what we had originally estimated back when we started the pilot. The bill of sale is just, again, sort of this is the option relationship for two things. First of all, this would give us a full relationship with RMI in terms of not only providing us a Class A disposal, but also and testing and making sure that we meet the requirements for the biosolids so that it maintains that. But also, if we ever had any type of delay or production problems, they would also then be responsible for assisting with the disposal of wet sludge until we could go back to dried sludge. So that's what this potential agreement would move forward. We've had multiple conversations with the principals of Shinsi USA. They currently have no plans for an East Coast or even east of the Mississippi physical presence in the U.S. So the closest U.S. presence will be Arizona for them. We're still concerned about their stockpiling of parts, and we've started actually working directly with Senshi in Japan to go through and identify components that we can stockpile, as well as through their parts list, components that are available here domestically that can also then be replacement parts for compressors and belts and other things that are fairly standard. So they don't all have to be a Senshi product. So I think we're in the process of finalizing that relationship. We've used them here recently. We've had a couple of parts that we needed to replace. We're able to find the parts domestically and basically work with them and do the install with our own folks, and did not delay production. We were able to continue. Basically, I think we lost a day in order to do the install and verify that everything was backing up and running. So that relationship, I think, is going to be beneficial to us as we go forward. We still have another proposal which I had attached in here, which is a proposal from Shinshi that they had offered to basically provide additional support to us going forward. Rob and I, quite frankly, have had a variety of conversations with, there's only 2 U.S. employees, one of whom who basically is sort of an office type person, another one who is basically sort of their field rep, who basically spends time on installs and running around demoing at various locations. So we didn't feel that we would, quite frankly, get the value from them for this contract, but I wanted to at least make you aware of it so that if you had any concerns or any other questions about it, quite frankly, we just didn't think that it was going to be of any value to us going forward. And then the last piece was, again, because we're no longer using Casella, they had changed their rate for if we wanted to give them a potential emergency or backup contract. Their rates had changed. They're more expensive because they're a variable rate now as opposed to a standard rate, because we would not guarantee volume. So we don't recommend going forward with a Casella contract, but I at least wanted to bring this to your attention and give you, the full range of information that we're working with. So at this point, I think the recommendation, and talking to Rob and talking to Shinshi, would be to bring to you at your first meeting in December a proposal with a cost-benefit analysis and some alternatives for purchase, and then have an opportunity to take your questions and input, and then come back to you at our final meeting with a determination as to whether or not we want to buy. So we'll still have 2 more bites of the apple.
We just have one meeting.
Well, we were going to move
Right.
that second meeting. Didn't we agree to the 28th? Isn't
think
that what
so.
we're going to do?
We agreed, the problem was the 14th, and so
Right.
we agreed to do one meeting on the 21st.
So,
Right, that's
I've
right.
got us for the 7th, right, which we're still on for, the first Tuesday? And
We
then
don't usually meet the first Tuesday. We're the second and
We're the
fourth.
second
Right.
Tuesday, right?
Right, but I added the 7th in case you needed
Oh, okay.
a second
Okay.
meeting. That was an option I wanted to discuss with you, so you'd have 2 chances to
Oh, I
look at
see.
this if
So
you wanted.
what would the board?
So
like
it'd be
to
the
do?
7th and the 21st if we
Does that
wanted
work?
to add the second meeting. If not, we don't need it. I'll just do it all on the 21st. I just wanted to see what your pleasure was. So,
Is there, do we feel we have a burning need to meet on the 7th?
I don't think so.
I mean, I like spending time with you guys, but if we don't need to meet, I'm sure we can find.
I would say based on my feeling is based on what we've been getting, not only tonight, but in all the previous meetings, we could
Right.
probably have pretty well informed
By the 21st?
to decide on the 21st.
Okay, that's fine.
For me, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Jigs is already running all the numbers, so, yeah.
Well, we have been working on it through time, and I wanted to keep you as in the loop as possible, because this has been, it's a fairly complicated and somewhat there's a lot of moving pieces to this decision, so I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable as we go forward. So I think it's the right thing to do. It's been, Rob and his team have been really tremendous with implementing this process and making it work. So I can't thank them enough, because without their expertise and their abilities, this would have failed without a doubt.
Yeah.
So a lot of the success of this going forward really falls on his shoulders, quite frankly. So, all right, so we'll plan on the 21st then, and we'll have some information. I'll try to get it to you early enough so that if there are questions, I can refine it and bring it back to you so it's fully vetted for the 21st.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea, if you assume that we could borrow at 2%, which I think that's a pretty safe number, and we finance this over 5 years, we'd be looking at an annual payment of $56,000, which we've already spent $51,000 this year. It's 5 months
Right.
on the contract,
Right.
on the trial contract. Now, granted, we're getting a rebate of half of
Of
that,
50%, yeah.
but it's basically $4,700 a month at 5 years.
Right.
And with the life cycle of this product being an unknown, I'm inclined to go for 5 years. I
Yeah.
think the interest rates will be better at 5 years, and I think that I just think it makes sense to look for that kind of a term.
Did we already get the answer on what the life expectancy of this unit is?
Well, the actual machine, and again, because parts in the machine are interchangeable, so
Yeah.
they're telling me that it can last 30 years, as long as you do heavy maintenance, meaning we looked at swapping out a variety of the moving parts to stainless steel, and we would probably do that about the 7 to 8 year mark.
Mhm.
And I think that will buy you enough time to probably get 20 to 25 years. I feel
And it's
comfortable.
already a couple years old.
I think this will be its third
Third
year.
year?
So
Yeah. I'm just wondering, it also comes with no warranty according to the.
that's going to be a
information.
challenge, and that's
Yeah.
one of the concerns that, we're going to have to keep an eye on parts and maintenance.
Mhm. Anyone else?
We were talking with Gary Fox. Wade and I were talking to him before the meeting, and I think, given what this means, in other words, taking a wet product and trucking it over the highways and putting it into a landfill versus investing in this machine and producing a Class A fertilizer
Mhm.
is all positive. I mean, it's a very good story, and one that I think in this day of rebuilding America, there has to be funding or subsidies to encourage this kind of decision by municipalities. It just makes all the sense in the world. And I encourage Scott and Gary to look at that. And I wouldn't hold up the purchase or anything like that. I think we should proceed with this.
Okay.
But I do think that there might be some opportunities to get rebates or other kinds of contributions down the line
Yeah.
for this kind of a purchase.
I wondered if because of the health risks of wet sludge, and now we're drying it, and after a COVID year, whether ARPA funds would be available for that sort of thing. I don't know, but it was just a thought.
It's an infrastructure investment, and wastewater is one of the areas.
Yep.
So
So it's possible.
Absolutely.
That we could use it for that. Anyone else have anything else? Okay. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks.
Good job.
Yeah, it's been a good process, and I appreciate the board's help and patience, and you guys have been very helpful with
Keep our fingers crossed that everything's good with the Vermont and we get our Vermont permit.
Yes.
for Class
Yeah.
A.
Yeah, that's sort of the last straw, or last piece.
I have a question about the permit.
Oh, yeah.
What takes Vermont so long to do that compared to across the river? You know? Seems like it's time consuming.
I hate to criticize regulators because that turns around and bites you in the butt. So I would say that they're exceedingly cautious. Because there is no difference, truthfully.
Yeah.
They were just much more thorough, much more cautious, and put us through many more tests, much more rigorous.
Good.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
How that played out.
Yeah, what's different between one state and another? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Time, I guess that's it. The second item on the agenda is to review the public safety camera purchase proposal from Axon. We have that in our packet.
So back in July, we had a conversation about a couple of problems that have been brewing at the police department. One of them being that our current camera system is this amalgamation of 3 different systems, and they produce this tremendous amount of data that is, for the most part, just dead air. There's not a lot of recorded material that's important. Some of it is and has to be maintained for, police record keeping, and we went through that whole discussion. While we were going through the updates with our body cameras and our dashboard cameras, Axon is the vendor that most people are standardizing to for those we have as well. And they have an internet web-based process where they take all of their current data and they transmit it basically to the cloud so that you're not maintaining that on a server on site. So we asked them, outside of their traditional body cam and car, can we do something with our system? Some of those cameras are 20 plus years old in that building. We have them in the entrances, we have them for the interview rooms, and we have them obviously for the cells. So, it's an important piece of what the police department does is maintaining that information. This is really sort of step one of a 2-step process. So if we're able to start the camera program, and you can see that we have some options to spread it out so that the bite is not as significant going forward. I can then segment the data on the one server, and it won't continue to compile. And that's important because the server that we're just talking about here is not able to save. The amount of data is so large, and the disks and some of the systems in that server have reached a point where we can't do a complete save. So if there's a catastrophic disk failure or other kind of failure, we would not be able to restore the data. But at least if I can segment it, we can over time start to cull the stuff off of that other server that's unnecessary and see if we can coax some more usability out of that server so that I don't have to replace the primary server at the current time. So it would buy us some time. Our initial cost when we looked at this was going to be about $50,000 to replace the 2 servers. And that would include this proposal, while it's a little more expensive, is at least a down payment on sort of making sure that we don't have this catastrophic server failure, which would be something I have to come to in an emergency and say, well, now we've got a significant problem. We're going to have to do this as an emergency. You guys know that emergency costs then mean that the cost of everything goes up. So all of a sudden I'm coming to you to say I've got a $30,000 or $35,000 problem, which are not meetings that are very pleasant for any of us. So this is sort of a down payment on the larger problem. It also, I think, gives us a good platform to maintain this into the future. Obviously, all of this digital recording and availability in the cloud gives us the ability to track information, maintain files, and transmit files when we have to for various legal and other reasons. So at this point, I think it's the more prudent approach and see if we can't nurse along that server until we're at a point where we can make a better investment decision on the long-term sort of police infrastructure with their computers and communications.
Well, this includes a payment plan,
It does.
and I see that 2 of the invoices are both due in December of this year.
Right.
Now, would you take a step back? We've allocated the funds to put cameras in our 3
Cruisers.
vehicles.
Right.
And have all 3 been installed at this point? Or
So we did the one demo that was
One,
down
yeah.
here, I believe, so all are operational. So all are currently capable of going out, transmitting data, and uploading it to the cloud. So
all 3 of
All
our
3.
vehicles?
Okay.
Okay. So this now deals with
the facility, the
facility
building.
itself.
Correct. Interview rooms,
Mhm.
exits and entrances, and also interview rooms. And what this does is the data that is recorded here goes to the cloud, and you don't have to worry about this thing turning into what we have. I think we have 15 terabytes of data sitting on that server. It's insane. We looked at, could we get a company just to manage that for us? And it's $189 per month per terabyte
Per terabyte, yeah.
to maintain that data. I mean, it was astronomical. I was shocked by that. So that wasn't a reasonable way to approach this. So we're really going to have to cut this problem in half, move that server off to the side, and start to cull that data over time.
So it's basically archive data.
It's going to be archive
Yeah.
and just disposal of stuff that's not relevant.
There's no way to compress the data so it doesn't take up that much space?
Video data is so difficult, and it's massive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just massive. So we really sort of have this was the most logical approach that I could.
And this doesn't operate on our server.
No, this is a separate deal
Separate
altogether.
serve at the police department, yeah.
And what I do like about it is, like I said, the long-term maintaining this data in the cloud is where we want it to be. So this is, I think, a 20, 25-year solution here.
Do you need a motion to, I see there's a signature page
Yes.
on the back of this. Yeah.
If you could just, I would appreciate
Need
that.
a
'cause
motion for this manager to sign the document, the contract, right?
to initiate the Axon camera program.
Yeah. So would someone like to make that motion?
I have a question still.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the cameras in the vehicles are Axon,
Correct.
and if I remember correctly, we don't have body cameras
No.
That'll be the next phase of this.
currently, right?
Right. I'm hoping that we can get a Department of Justice grant for the body cameras.
There was some movement in legislature about
Yeah.
body cameras recently. Well, I think it was put on hold or something, wasn't it? Yeah, but
Well,
it's the next, yeah.
I think
legislative-
there was a move to make it a mandatory,
That's
but
what
I
I
think when
thought.
they looked at the numbers, they realized that communities were going to be
Overwhelmed.
really overwhelmed with
Yeah,
it.
that's what I mean, so it's,
So they backed off,
yeah.
but I think it's coming back. I don't think it's going to go
Oh, sure it
away.
will, yeah.
So we're going to try to get ahead of it, and see if there's some way that we can get one of these Department of Justice grants for the body cameras. And then do it over time.
So the only other comment I have is I just, not to muddy the waters, because this is probably a good thing, but there was across the river, a county sheriff's department that recently was going to go with Axon, and at the 11th hour,
Oh.
they switched from Axon to body worn
Mm.
because of a variety of
Was this
better
for body cameras?
I
It was
don't know if it
in-car.
was cameras or cars
I
or
thought
what
it was
it
the
was.
in-car,
I'm not sure.
Okay.
right?
But anyway, that was my point. So I'm just throwing that out there. I don't, not to,
But why? Why did they change?
I guess apparently they've said that it was a little more money, but in the long run, it was a much better, somewhat better system. I don't know. Maybe their needs are different. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Axon's pretty much a standard.
they are,
so-
you hear a lot about Axon. You
Yeah.
do. But anyway, I brought the article, and I'll leave it with the manager, and
All right.
Sure.
he can read it at his leisure. And
Was it in the Eagle?
yeah, it
Okay.
was about a week ago.
Okay.
But anyway, I was just food for thought. But this is so this is the building.
Correct.
In the grounds.
Yep.
And there's 2 payments that will be made in December. The first 2 payments, right?
Well,
This HW is
Yeah.
Right.
December of 2001, and then year 1 is
Another 6139.
6,100.
right. My guess is that we'll probably make the first payment in December, but quite frankly, we won't probably make the second one until January, because by the time they process the first one, it's not going to be, we're not going to do the second one, so.
All right, is there a motion? Someone make a motion? for
I'll make
this?
the motion to authorize the manager to enter into the contract for cameras in the police facility with Axon.
Need a second. Is that the motion you needed, Scott?
Yes, that would be
That's all
great.
right? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Is there a total
Well,
dollar figure?
the down payment is $16,637.50. And then the 5 annual payments are $6,139.40.
Okay. It's off 2 cents in the other years, but that's okay, Jason. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, okay, good. You have you have your action. All right. Third item is public input meeting for a TA grant on Atkinson and School Street. It's in your
So-
packet. Yeah.
We've had one of these already with the select board, and we wanted to have one as well with the trustees, because this grant affects an intersection that has a lot of interest at the moment, as well as historically. So basically what this does is provides alternatives for traffic calming, some options for accessing the school buildings, because when these schools were developed, they were still basically walking schools. It was really not thought that people would be dropped off by car, and now the vast majority of kids are dropped off. There's much different ratio from walking, as well as, we still have traffic that come down the street because of the state highway system. So we're going to have to be smarter about the types of investment that we can make at that intersection to make it safer. I get a lot of concerned inquiries from Deb and other folks about bad behavior in and around that intersection, and it's a constant source of irritation for her because people are concerned. And this is sort of the first step to at least begin to do some physical improvements. This will give us the alternatives and costs. And what it'll also give us is the ability then to go after more federal funds for the actual improvements. So I know it's going to delay some of the time, but I think the work that's being done here will be necessary and will be helpful as we develop alternatives and then come back with projects with costs, and then ultimately work with our transportation folks to get those things implemented. So that's what this grant is. It's due, I think, the 8th, Gary? Is that right?
It's due tomorrow.
Oh, never mind. It's due tomorrow.
Mm.
So with that in mind, we do have a motion here. And basically what this will do is just provide an additional letter of support to our application as we go forward.
Now, is this local share? Is this out of village coffers, or how does that work? Projected cost is 55 grand, with 44 of it federal TAP funds and 11,000 local share.
Since it's a highway project, it'll come out of highway funds.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
That's the
where
way it's being
funds are coming
proposed.
from.
Well, having said that, I'll make the motion.
Gee.
I could change that
course-
if you'd like. I mean,
course,
we could certainly.
I also do live in Rockingham, so
Right.
so the motion to authorize the municipal manager to execute a support letter from the governing body of the applicant municipality and the acknowledgement and source of the local match and commitment to future maintenance responsibility for the future completed construction project.
Need a second.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Jeffrey? I have a question.
Yes.
Item 2, purpose and need.
Mhm.
It says the intersection at the junction of Atkinson Street and School Street Extension has an antiquated 4-way stop sign. Right, I get that.
Yep.
But then it says there, the next sentence down below, there is one-way traffic only on 2 of the 4 roads of the around-the-block traffic pattern for pickup and drop-off. Where's the other? One of them is Atkinson Street, is School Street Extension. Where's the other one-way?
Behind the school? Is that what we're talking about?
Church Place.
There is one-way traffic only on 2 of the 4 roads of the around-the-block traffic.
Church
Place.
Place.
So you're including Church Place?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
That's
sense.
one way now.
That
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
that is.
Yeah.
But I kind of look at it as part of School Street Extension, but okay.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted it clear, because I know the
Yeah.
other lanes are all 2 lanes of traffic, so, okay. All right, that was my only question.
Yep.
I just want to clarify, this
Yeah.
is an outline of the proposal, it's not the exact language.
Okay,
The transportation guy at Wyndham Regional Commission is also reviewing the application and editing it for improvements and competitiveness. So the language will be a little different, but
when it's final.
this is the substance.
Okay. All right, anything further? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. All right, then you have it. Next item on the agenda is to review an open air permit update. This is something that I submitted to Scott from the ordinance committee. While looking at parade and open air events, we looked at the permit and we thought, well, first of all, we are recommending, but that may not be proved. We are recommending an increase in the permit cost. And we thought the permit should actually include the cost so people are aware of what it is, whether it's going to be this price or whatever we have currently before, what we're currently using. And on the backside, also ask that the permit payment was received. Just two parts that I thought should be included on this piece of paper. Did the clerk get the payment with it? Sometimes people want it all waived. Although we looked at what we concerned ourselves with was the fact that money is being spent by the use of police, the use of administrative time to get the permit, to process the permit, make sure that all parties are aware of the permit. All those things cost money. And so we thought perhaps the cost of the permit should be higher. There's a lot of places where the police turn up and are utilized services, but we don't get paid or recoup the money for that. So that was the consideration. So but this permit form would be something that the village would control, village trustees would make a determination on. It's not going to go through the ordinance itself. It's just the standalone piece of paper. So that's why I brought it to the table for us to think about. All those ordinances are going to get reviewed by the attorney, and then they'll
Right.
come back to us at some point. I guess you guys are doing some state stuff on the rental one
Yes.
at the end of the month. So it'll be a while. I think it'll be into 2022 before the attorney gets through all those chapters. So here we are.
So what is, you're saying to consider reviewing?
Consider changing the rate, the cost of open air permits to $100 instead of, what are they currently there? 15, 20, something, I can't remember what
Right.
they are. About 20
Oh,
bucks.
It says fee 100.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know, no, that's
That
not the
was-
current fee. This is the amended
This is the
amended
amendment.
Okay.
form
Yeah.
That was
With-
a suggestion that
with the
came out of the
suggested
ordinance
from the
committee.
ordinance
I gotcha.
committee. And on the back page, you'll also see the section 4(2). Number 2 has been added. The permit, so I'm pointing out, these are the 2 things that are changed.
I got you.
And permit payment received with the application, yes or no. Of course, the form's not quite sized correctly to give you a room for a signature on the back of there, but that's the intent. The intent was to point those things out and see if that's something that the village trustees would be interested in. Because it's been $20 for, I don't know how long, and I'm assuming most of them get waived.
Vast majority do.
Vast majority get waived.
Yeah.
And I think about administrative costs and I don't know, these wouldn't necessarily extend to policing costs, which would be much more significant than $100. But administrative fees is concerned that maybe it should be larger. Maybe you think this is too high, maybe you think it's too low. I don't know. I wanted your thoughts.
I think it's appropriate.
What do you guys think?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with, but I have another question about this though.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure you've
It
probably
says-
never seen this form, even
pardon?
never seen the form before either. I know I hadn't.
Copy of ordinance received with this application.
Right, that was already on there. Kathleen always gives them a copy of the ordinance that pertains with this, and she does say, well, I guess she says she does, but it says yes or no. It gives both lines, but
And what's the ordinance say?
the ordinance talks about how the permit works, the process of the permit.
So does,
And there's a place for a fee, yes, in there too.
so where does, is there anywhere in the ordinance where it requires a certificate of insurance?
Unless the manager would ask for one. No, it doesn't require one.
Well, it should be part of this.
Okay, you
A
want to
lot
really
of the
step it up.
parades don't, like when the high school kids want to do a parade for the football team, they don't have insurance.
No, they don't. So what would happen if an accident occurred? Whose
Right.
whose insurance is it on?
It'd be on ours.
It would be us, more than
It'd
likely.
be on us. So we could ask for those. Insurance companies provide temporary ones for that sort of thing, or we could waive it. It's up to us what we choose to do.
Right. We got into
I
some
would-
arguments about it the last parade.
I would put in, I think it should be a requirement unless, but leave the, the wordage could say something to the effect that, unless otherwise waived by the board or
Mhm.
the manager or something to that effect.
Okay, so that would mean we would need to add the language into the ordinance itself, and then it should be reflected on the permit. That's what we would do. And that's fine. I mean, some recommendations going to wind up coming back to you at some point. I guess I'll fix that. Or we just had a meeting today. We
can
don't
bring it
intend to
back.
have a meeting till February, but we'll figure it out.
We can bring it back.
And that makes perfect sense. Everything else requires insurance. What do you think?
Well, I think it's pretty complicated. I mean, I'm just trying to think
I
through.
mean, most of our parades are right, firefighters, school events,
Right.
or
Yeah,
there
Yeah.
aren't that
The
many
alumni parade is.
alumni parade.
Although
But
technically,
the alumni provides proof of insurance.
right, they do. They do.
For their parade.
Through the
So they do?
501c.
Yeah, they
I
have.
think that's what they do.
Right, exactly. But I mean,
remember.
I'm assuming because sporting events, they must carry insurance.
Yeah. The
That they
school
take
to
won't
events.
Indemnify, once they leave the school property, they will
Yeah.
not indemnify.
But what
the
happens if their
activities.
students go to an away game, they're not covered?
Oh, they're covered by the school.
If it's an
Yeah.
official
They-
school
okay,
activity.
They are, all right.
you know,
But it came up just recently with,
Correct.
with the football team.
Right.
That-
Yeah, so what happens with that? when
Well,
they're
the
on
school's
it?
very adamant that their responsibility ends at their driveway. And so these are not considered school sanctioned events.
So if they're on another town's fire truck coming through our village,
It turned out they weren't on the fire truck.
They might have been in a bus
They
separated,
were in the bus.
bus, yeah.
Correct.
appropriate.
But we did have some discussion about riding on a fire truck, and I made it clear that we
Yeah.
weren't going to ride on a fire truck in the village.
Yes, I
What they
had,
did outside of the village, I don't have control
Right.
over.
when I was a new director on the school board, I was very unpopular when I brought that up at
Yeah,
the
I
high
brought it
school.
up too. I was not treated.
Yeah,
So then
no-
it's-
I know, it's not a popular idea, but the
No.
reality is, if something happened,
It
Well,
would
that's
be-
why,
problem.
that's, in my opinion, either their ordinance or the permit should require a
proof of
proper
insurance.
certificate of
Well, it should be
insurance.
reflected in the ordinance if we're gonna do that,
And-
yeah.
And like I said, for all parades, but leaving out in case there may be in a certain type of event or parade that maybe you
Right.
just, because it's such low risk or so minor on the scale that,
But I think the
not-
language is going to have to be pretty clear on which type of parade requires insurance and which
Yeah,
type
how
of
do we do
parade
that?
does
That's
not,
the
because
complicated
otherwise,
part.
every
Right.
time
I
an
think we're making
application.
it too
Right, I
complicated.
mean, we're having a parade of lights with the fire departments in
Right,
what,
in
December
December.
11th, right?
Right.
And we don't have a certificate of.
But you're going to get
insurance.
people all riled up who suddenly feel that,
They might
someone
consider
else
that-
didn't
I
need
think-
it and they do.
More
and-
government than they want.
I agree.
Right.
I think we ought to, I think it's great to have it, the understanding with the with the alumni, that they will have a certificate of insurance. But I think for these one-off type
Right.
parades, I just think it basically would put an end to being able to have these things.
Right,
So-
that's why I'm saying that in the permit or in the ordinance, it
Yeah.
should say unless otherwise, we leave that ability to be able to do that.
That we can if we need to,
If we
and
need
don't
to,
have to
or
if we don't.
based
So there's,
on-
so that gives us the option.
Gives
Well,
us
we
the
give you the
option to
option.
do that.
Right, well, then the permit itself would say number 3 would be, certificate of insurance supplied, yes
Yes
or
or
no?
no.
Yeah, that would be what you'd do.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if most of them are no, that's what they are. Okay.
Understanding, like Wade's not wrong, there's liability.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are concerns, and
We're
God
assuming a
forbid
certain
anything should
amount of it
happen,
just by having these events.
but,
Right.
yeah.
So,
We assume it every day, right?
yeah, for some
Yeah.
of this stuff we do.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what happened to the football thing, but is there an issue? Is that
Well,
what-
I went to the parade.
Yeah.
Of course, it rained. It managed to rain right at the time of the parade.
Of
but-
course.
But there were fire trucks from all the surrounding towns.
Right.
I mean, it was quite
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
And then in the middle of these maybe 10 or 12 fire trucks was a school bus.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
the kids, the team was had
Screaming out the
windows
window.
open
Right.
and waving
That's,
type of thing. So
Right.
that's fine.
it was fine.
Yeah, it's safe. I mean, it used to be on the top of the truck. That was
On the
scary.
top of the tower or the ladder truck,
Yeah, which I,
hanging onto the.
Frightening
rung,
with
so-
no belts at all.
I saw some of the pictures of some of the previous, and I told some of the parents, I said, listen, I'm
This is
sorry,
crazy.
but this is just not.
Not acceptable. Yeah.
It's a different era. I'm
Yep,
afraid.
it's true, and people are very litigious, so it's
I hate
great.
to
For a
be-
new tradition.
I hate to be. right,
Dress up the
pain in
bus. I don't
ass,
care. Turn it
but,
into a float, whatever they want to do,
You know, kid falls off that truck and we're all here and,
It's a bad day
in
for
a bad
everybody.
place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ordinance committee will make some amendment to that, and we'll have something that'll come back to us anyway. We haven't approved any of those at this point, but thank you for all the input. That also makes sense. All right, financial update is our next order of business.
So since our last meeting, we have been working on some of the allocations that you had discussed at your previous meeting. So I believe most of those have been completed, if not all of those.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
On the first page of the general fund, we under the miscellaneous income, there's 2 items. One
Oh,
was
yeah.
the insurance claim. Have we incurred cost to repair the fire station? Or I'm assuming this is a fire station or the police station.
Oh, the miscellaneous 37,000.
No, the 19,000.
19,
Oh, you
yes.
look at the 19. Okay.
We did,
Oh,
because
yes.
that was the
That was the cost.
lightning strike, and that was the cost of
Okay, all right.
the repair.
It's interesting because under our insurance section, it shows the $1,000 deductible.
Mhm.
We have it budgeted, but it doesn't show it being expensed.
Yeah,
So just,
okay,
okay.
yep.
The other one, the other miscellaneous is up to 37,000.
Right.
And when I asked at our last meeting, it was a result of a payroll audit. It was 10,000 at that time. It's now 37,000. And I was wondering what is the source of the 37?
Mhm.
My understanding is that we did an update of water, sewer, police, and just our general payrolls. And as a result of that, I believe that we were overcharging for our coverages. So that was part of the refund from that audit.
Okay, so would you just confirm that
Yes.
that the
That's actually-
37 is all from that?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. The
And at some point, we could allocate that to departments if that's
Mm.
specific, because it was wages. So
right?
we
Yeah.
could do that as a, right, and just basically,
Yep, and put
Offset.
it where it belongs. yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
so you might see some, we can look at doing that.
Okay. Just for future reference, maybe at a later time, under the police and fire revenue, the first three items total a budget of 15,000, and we've collected
18.
about a
No,
little over
no, sorry.
2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow up on
And
that.
so just
Yeah, that's true.
a feel for what we might expect by the end of the year and
Yep.
from that. I noticed that we also have not received the health officer reimbursement yet,
Mhm.
but I'm sure that'll come in good time.
Yep.
Yeah, like I had said last meeting, I believe we need to be more frugal in considering those expectations for income, because
Right.
we have to balance it out with what's available to get for taxes. And
Although it's interesting, we
seems to be
did see,
overestimating.
we did see some money coming in from the governor's
Highway
highway
safety.
safety
Yes.
program,
Yep.
which is
Mhm.
fine. Now, the question I had on the second page, I want to look at the water and sewer, but it's the EA to the manager.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that hadn't been allocated.
Oh, right, because it's different under the water and sewer.
And I wanted to make sure, okay, if you look, bear with me here a second
Mhm.
here when I get to the water fund.
Yeah, there we go.
Wastewater fund. It should be the same for both.
Should be.
The percentages, you mean that 15, 13?
It's
EA to manager?
Yeah,
1757 in both water and sewer,
Yeah.
but 999. So what
But-
it is here?
for the general fund, it was $9.99.
Right.
Yep.
And the, and we're supposed to be 20%,
Right.
and they're 15%.
And 15. Right.
Mhm.
So I would
Yeah.
say that there's a
I'll check to
math
see.
error
Somewhere. Yeah.
Right.
on
Yep.
that.
Okay.
I've managed to screw up all my
All your pages.
pages.
$1,000 versus.
So
$1,700 to
it's- yeah,
$1,800
Mhm.
each. Yeah.
Okay. If somebody else has a question, I'm just trying to get my, the building and contents, this is on page 3,
Yeah.
insurance.
Mhm.
My impression from what Alyssa, is it Alyssa or Alicia?
Alyssa?
Alyssa sent us is that then is the annual premium? The 5,000?
It's right, it's an allocated, don't forget, it's a
So it's
general
an-
liability.
it's
so
an
we have to
annual thing.
allocate
Okay.
that, right.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's,
But it's specific to that portion, correct?
right, okay. I really didn't have a lot. It was just, that was that one thing. We got the balance sheet for the general fund, but we didn't get the balance sheet for the wastewater and the water fund.
Yeah, I'll update those. She was working on a couple things, so I wanted to get the ones that we had out. She was still doing some work on that.
On the wastewater, Scott, this is
Mhm.
page 2 of 4.
Okay.
The consulting fee down at the bottom, 2,374. Is that part of that new contract that we,
No, we haven't started that yet. So that'll be a separate cost.
Because the other professional fees, the 4225, that's the NIMRIC. That's the portion of,
That.
their portion of NIMRIC.
Right.
But I was curious as to what that consulting fee, but I don't.
Okay.
Mhm.
And we won't spend any of the audit or financial on this round because we're not doing a single audit. So that 3750 will drop to your bottom line.
Okay.
Okay.
You're talking about the one we approved last meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't hit yet.
That hasn't started yet.
Correct. So we'll do a separate one for that.
Good. And we haven't started accruing for the revenue from North Westminster or from Westminster on our water and sewer. And I do believe
We talked about at the beginning of the year for
that's
that.
an accrual. Okay.
And I'm going to meet with
Because I
them.
know the bills go out.
We're
The-
looking-
The payment is due the first of the,
Right, we're looking at some dates to try to meet with them, and then I'm not quite sure what they're going to say, but I suppose like anything, you have to give somebody an opportunity to say something. And we'll go
Yeah,
from
no,
there.
I mean, let them have some input, whatever that is,
Correct,
before we move forward.
right. So that, we've got some dates. I'm just working with Jonathan to try to get that finalized.
I'm sorry, so when did you say you're meeting with them?
Sometime in early December.
Okay.
We have a couple dates. I just haven't finalized it with them yet. So,
Anyone else have any more financial questions? I'm glad to get back into the habit of seeing these on a monthly basis. It matters.
yeah.
Just so we're, keeping an eye on what our budget's looking like as it moves.
Alyssa's
and
working on
everything's
a
more
lot of the
clean.
concerns and cleaning up as much as she can, so
Mhm.
I think we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Right. Okay. That reminded me of the dispute we had over the taxes on the recycling property.
Mhm.
And that we had asked for a hearing with the BCA. Peter and I had asked Shannon to get it set up. We never got it. We just paid the tax. And I don't know.
We did file a paper appeal with them. They canceled the first meeting.
Yeah.
And they did a second meeting on a short notice that nobody apparently was aware of.
No,
They
guess
denied our
not.
appeal. Can you imagine that? It seems very, So we'll try again.
Yep, try again.
If at first you don't succeed.
Yep.
Well, at least we know the interest clock is going to start ticking in January.
Yeah, 2022 will change, I think, some,
Yeah.
So
yes, I agree.
Well, if you review agenda items for the next meeting, which are,
Now it's
okay, now it's going to
12/21.
be the 21st, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So our
12
next meeting's 12/21.
12/21, unless we absolutely have to have
Right.
one in December
Right,
7th.
so we will have the dryer
Yep.
and purchase.
Yep.
Financing and
Right.
the RMI agreement
Yes.
to go with it.
I don't think we'll be doing the open air permit. I don't think we'll be ready to bring that back at that point. We'll
Right.
have-
No.
No, we'll have the
And-
Minards
And I'm
pond
thinking that
update.
should just come back along with
Right.
the, when we get the stuff back from the attorney, because that's going to have to go to him too. So now that we're going to change the open air, add something on insurance certificates to the
Yeah, it's gonna
ordinance
take some
itself,
time.
might as well just put it all together.
Deb had asked for an update on the water building at the Miners Pond, so we'll put that
Right.
on for December.
Right?
That
Thank
was
you.
Another item she had asked me for.
Gatehouse?
The gatehouse.
Yes, because I think there was some input from Walter Wallace and I don't know who else. concerning
CLG did talk
Getting
about it.
roofing and painting and all those things kind
We
of things.
talked
done.
about
We talked,
volunteering time.
yeah, we did, but we haven't seen any.
I think it got a little
forward
lost in the sauce, so we'll bring it back to
motion.
focus. Yes, Gary.
Yeah, and the public meeting on USDA community facilities for the BF Fire Department radios.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And when does that one due, Gary?
In December, just
Okay.
after that, yeah.
So the 21st is still enough time?
Yeah, so the hearing has to happen before the award, but it can be, if the application is due the week before, the application can be filed, and then we send in the public meeting minutes. So it works.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
All right, very good,
All right.
great.
Did you have anything, Jeff?
I do not.
Okay, we still have time for that. Plenty of time to get through the Thanksgiving holiday, and if we have any ideas, items we'd like to have added. We do have a joint board meeting, review items for that. That's actually the 30th, not the
That's the
29th.
30th, correct.
Okay, so that changes that. Okay.
And just for an update for this board, since the state has taken action on local option for mask mandates, we'll at least have it on for a discussion with both boards, with some
do that.
VLCT guidance and what have you. So that'll be on. We do have updates on our tax sale items and
Okay.
the state program potentially that might be assisting people that are in arrears with their taxes, and then we'll have an update on 66 Atkinson as well.
Okay.
Is that still on schedule for,
We are on schedule, so we're turning the property over December 1st.
What did you do about propane bids?
We have propane, we have a contract, we did get updated solicitations.
Okay.
So we started a contract because everybody wanted immediate pricing. Nobody would wait.
Nobody would hold. Yeah.
No, nobody would hold past 24 hours.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll bring it to you just for informational
Just for
purposes.
information, yeah.
or to, what do you ratify or? do you need-
Well,
you
we don't
even
need,
to?
yeah, I mean, we usually
At
make
this point,
motions on it,
yeah,
so.
I mean, normally we have, boy, I'll tell you,
Right.
the markets are really, it's crazy.
Volatile, yeah.
Very volatile. People
I
did
mean, we can
not
do it
want
as a
to,
ratification, that's fine.
yeah,
joint
people
board
did not want to do real long-term pricing because it's just too,
It's moving too much, yeah, I know.
they
It's
just didn't
awful.
want to take the risk. So, but we do have a contract, so,
Okay, that's good.
yep.
All right. Review and approve orders, bills, and warrants. I need a motion for that.
So moved?
A second?
Second.
All right, thank you. And we got through those and we gave them back to Scott. Actually, I'm going to
No.
give them back to you. They're right
Okay,
here.
Great.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. No, any opposed? None, okay. All right, other business. Scott,
No, all set.
okay. Wade,
I have nothing. I'm all set.
Jigs.
I'm good. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I hope everyone has
Absolutely.
a safe holiday. And Jeff,
All set.
all right.
Thank you.
Looks like we are done. I need a motion to adjourn. No executive session needed.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second that.
okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Have a good night and holiday weekend. We will see you December 21st.